Hello everyone, welcome to Moushumi's Travel Time. Today I am taking you on an unforgettable journey through the breathtaking Spiti Valley, the ultimate Himalayan escape. I had the privilege of exploring this spectacular destination in July 2026 with Moushumi Kakuti, a very dear friend of mine. Here we are in our incredible journey from Chandigarh in an Innova, setting off to explore the mesmerizing beauty of Spiti Valley. Throughout the journey, Jasbir was a true guide and a driver. I would also like to thank Brahman Tours, with whom I have been traveling for past 15 years, for organizing yet another wonderful memorable tour. On our way from Chandigarh to Narkanda, our first stop was Shimla. We spent some time in the famous Mall Road and had our lunch. The 113-kilometer journey from Chandigarh to Shimla was covered in 3.5 hours. Enjoying the scenic beauty of the Himachal, we continued our journey towards Narkanda, which is about 60 kilometers from Shimla. Before checking into the hotel in Narkanda, we went to visit the revered Hatumata temple. This is the parking area from where we had to board a local vehicle to tackle the narrow, treacherous mountain road leading up to Hatumata temple. Our perilous uphill journey began in foggy weather and light drizzle. The drive through mist-covered hills was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. From that gate we had to walk up to the temple. The panoramic view from the top is said to be absolutely breathtaking. But unfortunately, due to the fog, the view was partially obscured. Yet, the misty weather had a charm of its own, creating a peaceful and magical atmosphere. The return journey was equally hazardous and exhilarating. These are the apple orchards covered by protective nets to shield the fruit from the rain. From the temple, we went straight to our hotel. This is Greenberry Hotel and Resort Narkanda, where we stayed overnight. The view from the hotel was incredible, though partially covered by mist. That is Narkanda market below our hotel. The next day we drove from Narkanda to Sangla. These are the beehives inside wooden boxes you will see throughout Spiti route. A stunning glimpse of the valley along the route to Sangla. That's the Satluj River, the town of Rampur visible from the road. The gravel, rough, bumpy roads have begun, a common feature you will encounter throughout much of this journey. As these roads are carved into the mountains, towering rock faces often loom over the narrow stretches. These are the muddy deposits from the glacier. This is Karcham Dam, one of the most scenic landmarks and a popular attraction in the Sangla Valley. Located at the confluence of the Baspa and the Satluj rivers, this impressive hydroelectric project marks the gateway to the beautiful Sangla Valley. The Satluj River that flows from Tibet in China before entering India and reaching Karcham Dam. Our next destination is the Kamru Fort. The fort sits at an altitude of 2,600 meters. The fort is dedicated to Ma Kamakhya Devi, and it can be reached only by climbing a long flight of steps. That's the original fort where tourists are not allowed. This is the entrance to the inner sanctum of the fort. This is the Ma Kamakhya temple inside the fort. The Badrinath temple inside the fort. The Kamru village from top of the fort. From the Kamru fort, we arrived at the town of Sangla. Driving towards Raksham, crossing another narrow stretch and steep drop. This is Raksham, a scenic village in Baspa Valley, located at an altitude of 3,100 meters. This is the Escape Adventure Camp in Raksham, where we stayed for 2 nights. This crystal clear drinking water comes directly from the glacier. The awesome scenery surrounding the camp. This is a natural glacier stream flowing right in front of our camp. The next morning, we set out for a walk in the light drizzle, guided by Mr. Negi, an army veteran and the owner of the campsite. That's the Kinnor Kailash range. And on the other side is the Kranasa mountain range, the Baspa river that flows right behind our campsite. This is the beginning of the 6 hours trek to Chitkul. As we had no intention of trekking, we returned back from this point. After breakfast, here we are on our way to Chitkul from Raksham. Once again, we are driving along rough, bumpy roads with steep drops on one side and towering rocks overhead. Though the distance was only 12 kilometers, it took us more than 1.5 hours to reach there. This is Chitkul, the last inhabited village of India, nestled in the breathtaking Baspa Valley of Himachal Pradesh. Situated at an altitude of about 3,450 meters, this picturesque village is famous for its traditional wooden houses, peaceful atmosphere, and the ancient Mathi temple. After spending some memorable moments in Chitkul, we are now heading to Baseri, another hidden gem of the Baspa Valley. Located about 20 kilometers away from Chitkul, this charming Himalayan village is known for its traditional wooden houses, apple orchards, and serene mountain landscape. Walking up the village among lush apple orchards was a truly unique and delightful experience. From Basari, we drove back to Raksham, where we stayed overnight. But staying in Basari would have been a better choice. It would have saved us 20-kilometer up and down journey and given us more time to explore the beautiful village of Basari. The next day, we set out from Raksham for Kalpa, which is about 50 kilometers away, crossing the Karcham Dam once again. Fortunately, the road in this journey was much more better, driving through the majestic Kinnor Valley to Kalpa. After about 2.5 hours drive, we arrived in Kalpa and now driving towards the Kalpa suicide point. This is the dramatic Kalpa suicide point. This scenic spot is carved into sheer rock cliffs with deep gorges dropping thousands of feet below. On our way to Kalpa 5-well retreat eco luxury, where we will stay overnight. The steep winding ride up to the retreat was quite exhilarating and challenging. At last, we arrived in File Retreat in Kalpa, considered India's highest luxury glamping dome and eco-luxury stay. The dome was a perfect blend of the adventure of camping and the comforts of a modern hotel. The property is surrounded by the magnificent landscape of Kinnor, and on a clear day you can also see the Kinnor Kailash. Kinnor Kailash is somewhere in between those peaks. The next morning before leaving Kalpa, we went on a short trekking just beside our retreat. While trekking, we came across several valuable medicinal plants, many of which are traditionally used to treat people for their healing properties. Those are the original stone houses of the people where the stone roof has been replaced by tin. A natural dam from where the water is taken for irrigation by the drain. At the top, we found a beautiful open meadow surrounded by towering trees. The untouched rustic beauty of the place was simply captivating, a peaceful little haven nestled in the mountains. At the far end is the Kinnor Kailash range. After spending a truly memorable night at Fayul Eco Luxury Dome, surrounded by the serene beauty of the mountains, today we are heading towards Tabo, passing through the picturesque villages of Nako and Gui. A glacial river flowing along the rugged Rocky Mountains. That's a pulley that carries essential goods for the people in the mountain. In this way, enjoying the breathtaking dramatic landscapes along the way, we finally arrived at the picturesque Nako village in Kinnor. This is the famous 1,000-year-old Nako monastery associated with the revered Buddhist teacher Padmasambhava. Surrounded by the stark dramatic landscape of the Himalayas, it emits a very serene and peaceful atmosphere. On the way to Gui village, we encountered a roadblock caused by landslide. Fortunately, within 2 hours, the army cleared the way. My heartfelt salute to the Indian Army. Driving towards the Gui village, we had now truly entered the spectacular Spiti Valley. As we climbed higher, the landscape became increasingly dramatic and awe-inspiring. An army checkpoint before entering Gui. A popular army canteen where tourists often stop to enjoy its mouth-watering samosas and hot tea. A delightful break in the journey. After a short break, here we are on our way to the Gui monastery. The road to the Gui monastery was very rustic and bumpy, winding through the rugged Himalayan terrain and making the journey an adventure in itself. Driving through the Gui village, we arrived at the monastery. Walking towards the monastery from the car parking. Gui monastery lies at an altitude of around 10,000 feet and is located close to the Indo-China border. Apart from its breathtaking landscape and peaceful atmosphere, the monastery is particularly famous for the naturally preserved mummy of a Buddhist monk, Sangha Tenzin. It is locally believed that the mummy's hair and nails continue to grow even after more than 500 years. There are many such fascinating stories surrounding the mummy, but these are part of local folklore rather than scientifically established facts. As the mummy is kept inside a glass box, clear photography is not possible. From Gui monastery, we left for Tabo. By this time, we didn't really know what was more overwhelming, the breathtaking scenery unfolding around us, or the dusty, bumpy road. A striking outdoor statue of Buddhist guru Padmasambhava near Tabo. At last we arrived at Tabo and stayed overnight in Hotel Maitreya Regency. The next morning after breakfast, we walked around the village and also visited the monastery near the hotel. This is the Tabo Monastery, founded in 996 AD at 3050 meters in Himachal Pradesh's Spiti Valley. It is the oldest continuously functioning Buddhist enclave in India. Just outside the village of Tabo, we came across some of these ancient caves. These man-made rock excavations date back to 1000 years, and monks historically used these quiet bare chambers for deep meditation, winter retreats, and as living quarters. As the climb was too high and the weather was very dry and hot, we decided not to go up. On our way to Dhankar, another hidden gem in Spiti Valley. Dear viewers, the dramatic landscapes were even more breathtaking than the destinations, so we stopped often to capture the beauty. Again, the dusty, bumpy, narrow road, a common feature almost throughout the Spiti Valley. What made the journey even more challenging was having to drive without AC and keep the windows open because of the thin air. Imagine that. The first glimpse of the Dhankar village perched dramatically on a steep hillside. These structures around Dhankar are somewhat similar to Cappadocia's famous fairy chimneys in Turkey. This is Dhankar Monastery, a 1000-year-old Buddhist fort monastery perched on a 300-meter cliff at 3894 meters in Himachal Pradesh's Spiti Valley. It is an endangered heritage site. It was once a strategic fort and residence of Nono, the traditional ruler of Spiti. The monastery preserves ancient Buddhist scriptures in Bhoti script along with traditional paintings and religious artifacts. After exploring the monastery, I am now climbing up to the top of the village. The houses of the village, as you can see, are perched dramatically on the steep mountainside, and they seem almost carved into the rocky terrain. Built in the traditional Spitian style with mud, stone and timber, these compact homes blend beautifully with the barren landscape. An ancient temple at the top of the village with breathtaking view. After spending few minutes at the top, I finally came down. At the opposite end of the village, these steep steps lead to the remains of the historic Dhankar fort. The fort once served as a refuge and defensive stronghold for the people of Spiti during the times of war. After spending some unforgettable moment at the top, I finally came down. From Dhankar, now we are on our way to Kaza. The traditional mud houses. Crossing the town of Kaza, now we are on our way to Hotel Amida, located in Rangrik, about 8 kilometers from the town of Kaza on the Manali road. This is Hotel Amida, nestled amidst the dramatic landscape of Spiti Valley, a peaceful retreat away from the town. These are the cottages at Hotel Amida, built in the traditional mud house style. Their thick earthen walls provide natural insulation. We stayed here for 2 nights. Today we are on our way to visit some of the flabbergasting places in Kaza, like the comic village, Hikim, Key Monastery and so on. Our first destination was the Chichem Bridge, one of the highest suspension bridges in Asia, standing at around 13,596 feet above the sea level. Built across the deep Sambalamba Gorge, the bridge connects the remote villages of Chichem and Kibbar. Before the bridge was built, the villagers had to rely on a precarious ropeway to cross the gorge. From Chichem, we went to the Key Monastery. As there was some special religious celebration going on in the Key Monastery, we had to park our car near the gate and walk all the way up. To our great delight, we saw monks performing colorful masked ritual dances. From there, we walk up to the main monastery. From the Key Monastery, we went to the comic village. On the way to the village, the breathtaking scenery was simply irresistible. Here's a glimpse of the spectacular landscapes we encountered on the way. The 35-foot golden statue of Lord Buddha at Langza, standing majestically above the village. Standing at this spot, we felt that as if we could touch the sky here. Driving up the mountain to Comic, which sits at an altitude of about 4,587 meters, one of the highest motorable villages in the world. This is the world's highest cafe in Comic, where we had our lunch. Set amidst this stark, magnificent landscape, it was truly an unforgettable experience. Just beside the cafe is this beautiful Comic monastery, also known as Tangyut Gompa. It is dramatically perched on the edge of a deep gorge. From Comic, we headed towards Hikim, another high-altitude village of Spiti, situated slightly lower than Comic at an altitude of 4,400 meters. This is the highest post office in the world at Hikim. This tiny post office has been connecting the remote people of Spiti with the outside world since 1983. Of course, I could not resist sending a postcard to myself from this remarkable place. This is the world's highest post box where I posted my card. From Hikim, we again returned to Kaza, where we stayed overnight. The next morning, we headed towards the Chandrata Lake, passing through the Kunjum Pass. The roads towards Chandratal were even more treacherous and nerve wracking than the ones we had crossed before. But remarkably, the landscape around us was also becoming even more dramatic and breathtaking. This is the Kunjum Mata and a Buddhist temple at the Kunjum Pass. It is believed that seeking her blessings ensures a safe and protected journey ahead. Just beside the temple is the Kunjum War Memorial. On one side of the narrow winding roads where the towering rock walls loomed above us with the constant threat of falling rocks, while on the other a deep gorge plunged down into the valley. And so bumping and jolting our way along the dusty rugged roads while marveling at the Spiti's breathtaking landscapes, we finally arrived at Batal, the gateway to the enchanting Chandratal Lake. The camps where some people stay overnight while visiting the lake. We came across many such bikers throughout the Spiti Valley. The potholes on the road like this are scattered throughout the journey. At last we arrived at the lake. We parked our car here and walked towards the lake. After spending some wonderful time at the lake, we headed towards Manali. The road from Chandratal to Manali was most dangerous and hazardous of the entire Spiti route. From time to time we encountered these nalas, which are actually glacial streams flowing down from the mountain above, spilling directly across the road, making the already challenging drive even more dangerous. But fortunately, Jasveer navigated these treacherous roads with remarkable skill and confidence. To our great delight, we came across this beautiful flock of sheep, a delightful sight amid the challenging journey. It took us nearly 4 hours to cover this 100-kilometer journey from Chandratal to Manali. Oh, it was such a delight to be back on a smooth paved highway, a welcome relief after the treacherous roads of Spiti. Crossing the Atal Tunnel, marking the last leg of our journey towards Manali. After staying in Manali for 2 nights, we drove to Chandigarh and flew home, carrying with us many sweet and unforgettable memories.